And I want to get into this convo too, and we don't have to spend too much time on it because, quite frankly, I don't think it's going to happen. But I saw Ermanni Edwards bring this up yesterday, and I thought it was worth a convo. Not how realistic it is, because let's be real here. Unless the Lions show they're a legitimate contender and they're interested, maybe it could happen. But Ndamukong Suh, all right, former Lions player who, one of my favorite Lions players, at least to watch, his first 2-3 years, unbelievable. What he did in his rookie year is unbelievable. Then we know how it ended after that. Ndamukong Suh is a free agent. He's waiting till October, right around that time, to again just jump on a roster that he thinks can win a Super Bowl, can compete for a Super Bowl. That's how he views it. And now, are the Lions that team? No, I don't think so. This early, I think I could see Ndamukong Suh joining a team, one of those AFC teams more so. Now, unless he joins Philly again, or maybe he joins the Cowboys or San Francisco, whatever it is. I don't think it's the Lions, unless the Lions start, 5-6-0, 5-0, and they look really good, and he's thinking, you know what? I can help out that defensive front. But other than that, Sam, Ndamukong Suh ain't happening.
No, well, here's the thing about Ndamukong Suh. Last year was the first year where I saw, and I think the whole NFL world saw, some very, very noticeable decline. He's 36 years old. He only played 8 games in the regular season for the Eagles and didn't really make that much of an impact, albeit he played on a pretty stacked front seven, I would say, with, Fletcher Cox and Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick and the likes, and Brandon Graham, like Jordan Davis, even Javon Hargraves. I mean, it's hard to crack a rotation with that much talent. But at the same time, if you're going to Detroit, like, what does he really bring you at this point? Especially, like, how much money would he ask for, first of all? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, besides, I mean, Sam, if you want to bring up like off the field stuff, leadership, is he a leader?
Well, I
don't think so.
I take less stock in leadership than the average person, but that's neither here
my
nor
point
there.
is, if you're not providing, if he's not producing at the level he once was, what other value is he bringing? And if he's not a leader and he's 36 years old, what the hell is he doing?
I mean, are you asking him to basically be Isaiah Buggs or something like that, just a rotational defensive line piece?
And that's no disrespect to Suh. I mean, I don't want no smoke with that.
Right.
I don't. But I will say this: I don't think it's realistic. I don't think, from Suh's point of view, he'd be looking at it. I'm going to go join the Lions, unless it's for, to reminisce and go back to the team that drafted you. But if you're Ndamukong Suh, who at this day and age is 36 years old, and you just want a ring chase. Are the Detroit Lions your first idea of a ring chase?
I'll tell you what.
Although I'm confident about what they're going to become, let's be realistic here.
You know what, though? I would argue that Ndamukong Suh needs the Lions more than the Lions need Ndamukong Suh. At this point, the Lions actually are a team that I think Ndamukong Suh could join to maybe ring chase. Maybe not this year, which I know he's a little up in the age, but in a couple of years, if he just wants to stick around, I don't necessarily hate it, because the reality is, and I believe this with every single fiber of my being, if Ndamukong Suh were to come to this Detroit Lions team this season, it would be the third best team he's ever played on after the 2020 Bucks and last year's Eagles.
Right.
So this idea, I know it was kind of written in the prep, is Detroit an attractive enough destination for Ndamukong Suh? Who gives a shit? And that's not the mindset that we should be taking at this point, because the Lions really don't need him. Obviously, a nice interior defensive line body up the middle to make a play or two throughout the season is not insignificant, because it is a position in which the Lions are still, I would say, a little weak at, and they don't have that top end talent. Although I think Lee McNeil is going to break out, but still, it's still a bit of an unknown. But at the same time, I don't really see it with Ndamukong Suh on this team. And like I said before, is he going to be a veteran minimum guy at this point in his career?
No, and maybe for the right team, the right situation.
That's fair.
And also, the thing I'm concerned about, and why I wanted to bring this up, because there is some truth to this, and it's the same thing we talked about with the wide receiver core adding Denzel Mims. You're about an injury away from being concerning. Like, that interior defensive line position, if Lee McNeil goes down for 4 weeks, you're screwed. Like, unless you think Buggs, which I like Buggs, solid. I mean, you're worried. That's your weakness on your defense. It has been since the beginning. So moving forward, could a guy like Ndamukong Suh help depth? Of course. But to Funky's point, WoodwardSports.com, Jeff, if the Lions start 5-0, I doubt there'll be a need for Suh. That's also true, but the Eagles were also really good, and they signed Suh, so it never hurts to have more talent.
He didn't do
but you're all
anything,
right,
though.
Funky. If you're 5-0 with the young guys you have, you probably don't need them at all. D-Buck says, Suh could be the voice in the locker room to the young talent. Many of them seem soft. Really?
What?
I don't really think. I think the young guys are like the opposite
I
of
can't
soft.
think of anybody like. Again, this isn't slandering. I could see Jared Goff really being the only guy that is considered soft, like out of the Lions starters. I can't think of anybody else. Obviously, none of the offensive defensive linemen. Mon-Ra St. Brown isn't. J-Mo isn't. Marvin Jones isn't. Jameer Gibbs isn't. David Montgomery isn't.
I don't even know if you could put Jared Goff in the term of soft.
No, yeah,
because
I
everything that you hear about him from an interview standpoint is not that he's soft. It's just that, he's not that standout personality guy when you look at other individuals across his category of his position. So you can't knock him for that. That maybe he's a little bit more private or not so as outgoing in media front.
But even him being like that doesn't equate to him being soft.
No,
right?
exactly.
I think Jared, if you talk about the mental adversity he's had to go through over the last since LA, he's probably one of the more stronger players. He doesn't let any of the outside noise get to him. If anything, that's toughness. If he was soft, he'd be yelling at the media saying, "I see what you guys say about me." He doesn't give a shit. Like, the guy just plays. So I don't know if soft's the right word. I mean, is Panay soft? Is Amon-Ra St. Brown soft?
No.
Like, is Malcolm Rodriguez soft?
No.
Like, I don't know. But hey, I get what you're saying. And I want to read this one too. Suh, Brandon Katz says, Suh is not a leader. He can constantly showed up late for team meetings when he was in Detroit. Yeah, and again, I don't know what kind of player he is now, much older. But whenever you hear Ndamukong Suh and helping young guys, those two things don't really go together.
No.
That's not who Ndamukong Suh is.
They most certainly don't. And here, to the shock of absolutely no one, there's somebody in the chat who really is caping up for Ndamukong Suh, and that, of course, is none other than Easy from the Woodward Heavyweights in 5-7. He's saying, how the F could you say no to a Hall of Famer in a situation where the cupboards are bare? Here's the thing, Easy. If this would have been a couple of years ago, I would have been right there with you. I'm a big Ndamukong Suh fan. I love what he did for Detroit. I think he is a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it, even though some people don't. But I saw what I saw last year. With Philadelphia, he basically did a whole lot of nothing. He played 8 games, I think had 1 sack, 0 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. He did a couple of things in the playoffs, but at the same time, NFL players, they fall off a cliff. That's what they do. And by the numbers, by the production, it took a precipitous dip last year, a dip that I was even shocked that he took. Yes, that is a word. Look it up. Get your thesauruses out. Man, I bungled thesaurus. But you know what I mean. It's what he did last year that kind of scares me. If you want to sign him for a veteran minimum maybe to give him a spin, I don't necessarily hate that, but he's not what he was. Not at all.
And I want to say this. I want to clarify this because I think people are misunderstanding what I'm saying. And Jay Wilfan says, Jeff, a few days ago you said you ride with Louis Riddick. Now that wasn't true. Either you ride with Louis Riddick or not. The Lions are contenders. Yeah, where did I say they're not contenders? Like, I think they're contenders. My point about Ndamukong Suh isn't he's trash. I never said that. What I'm saying is Ndamukong Suh going to pick the Lions? You have a choice of multiple teams in October. Is it going to be the Lions? Now, the Detroit fan in me and the simp that I could be, would be, yeah, he's going to choose Detroit. And then a little bit of reality hits me and thinks, no, he ain't. Like, so that's where I'm coming from. It's not about me not wanting to sign Ndamukong Suh. It's not going to happen. We can revisit this when it does. It's not going to happen. That's my point. If you're Ndamukong Suh and you're 36 and you want a ring, do you think Ndamukong Suh in his mind thinks, I'm going to go to the Lions? No, he doesn't. I'll answer it for you. And I don't even know the guy. It's not going to happen. That's the point I'm trying to make. Not if I like it or don't. It's not going to happen.
But Jeff, I feel like you're kind of adapting that inferiority mindset. My mindset is, why should we be clamoring off of Ndamukong Suh? Why should we wait for him to choose us? By the numbers last year, Ndamukong Suh was undoubtedly washed. And at this point, I would say that the Lions are going to be successful with or without him. And do I think a 36-year-old Ndamukong Suh coming off of the season that he had last year is going to put the Lions over the top? Absolutely not. I mean, a couple years ago, sure, I would have taken him in a heartbeat.
It's depth, but yeah, like,
that's all
point,
it is. It's depth. Like I said, he is basically going to be Isaiah Buggs, but older. And that's what I say to Easy. He even said a couple of years ago he was just starting for a Super Bowl roster, you sheep. Oh, man, he called us a sheep. No, I mean, he did in 2020 and in 2021. Obviously, the Bucs were good and they lost to the Rams in the playoffs. But that's what happens with NFL players. They get old. They get on the wrong side of 35 and they fall off of a cliff, especially a guy like Ndamukong Suh, who's been in the NFL since 2010, who's taken a lot of punishment being in the trenches for all of those years, has been pretty consistently a guy who's played a lot of games. And you look at what he did with the Eagles. You don't just fall off a cliff and just have a renaissance at age 37 as a defensive tackle. It's very, very rare that happens. Go ahead, Lucas.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the available defensive tackles still. And Ndamukong Suh's 36. And the names that are still available, Shelby Harris, we all remember him after the Broncos-Seattle game this year. Michael Brockers, we're all familiar with. We don't want him back. Akeem Hicks, too old. But the player I really do want, and Sam, I'm sure you'll approve of this, is Chris Wormley. He's 29.
Yeah.
He was
Wormley.
He was a Toledo man, by the way.
Oh, jeez.
And he was a stud in Pittsburgh. He's 29 years old. I'm sure he wouldn't be asking that. So when you compare, would you rather have Ndamukong Suh or just even something that Linval Joseph,
Give me
Hurst,
Chris Wormley.
I mean, even Corey Peters, that's a big boy. There's
Yeah.
a couple other options I'd rather have right now than Suh. Not saying that I don't think Suh's terrible, because when you're a big body like that, I think you can automatically make a difference whether it's on the stat sheet or not. But just he's literally 36 years old.
And just to get to some more of these comments before we go to break, Booner chiming in and he says, if you could pay Suh $2 million to add depth to the D-line, why are we passing? Who else are you going to bring in? You don't need him to be the old Suh. But again, Booner, you're operating under the fact that he would take $2 million to join the Lions to assume that we would win a Super Bowl. Buddy, we're not in imagination land. Like, we're in reality. I don't think Suh's going to do that. I don't. If he did, I'd be shocked. If he signed for $2 million, which is pretty much nothing, to the Lions, believing they could win a ring, and although, listen, the Lions, to me, they're in that mix, but are you more confident in the Lions than you are the 49ers, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Bills? Sorry, I'm not. And I like the Lions, but I like those other teams more, quite frankly.
They're probably,
so that's where you lose me. The point I'm making is Suh has an option out of all those teams. If someone loses a defensive tackle, who are they going to call? Probably a guy like Suh, who has experience, who can come in and fill and be a body. I don't know if he would choose Detroit. And Booner saying he took $2 million to join the Eagles. Again, Booner. Are we the Eagles?
Too, and it's like,
are we the Eagles?
He took it in the middle of the season for 9.
We're getting to that point, but the Eagles were already. How many games did they win before he signed?
Right, they're obviously
They
more
looked
built
good.
to win now.
So the Lions have to look great this year to even have a chance. And if then, I don't know if he'll choose the Lions. There's too many what ifs. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not about being a hater, or it's not about, Jeff, you don't think the Lions are contenders? No, I just don't think, realistically, until the Lions prove they can do it, you're going to have Ndamukong Suh being like, you know what? I only probably have a good year or two left in me. I'm going to use one of them on the Lions. It ain't happening. I don't think it's going to happen.
And you know what? You know how much time Lions and Lions fans should give to what Ndamukong Suh thinks of them right now? 0.0. Hit it, JB. 0.0.
0.0.
And that's my point. The Lions are no longer a poverty franchise. The Lions are no longer that kind of team that veterans don't want to join when they think that they can win late in their careers. They're at that point now. I get it that they still haven't made the playoffs, and I think this year they're going to take that step, and then maybe next year they're going to be a team that can actually contend for the Super Bowl. But this isn't the same old Lions, and Ndamukong Suh is just dust in the wind right now when it comes to the Lions, and the whole, in the Lions as a whole, as an ethos and everything.
And I'll end it with this. D-Buck says, the question is Suh trying to win another championship or just trying to look to retire where he started? There you go. If it's winning a championship, I'm telling you, if I'm Suh, and I'm just trying to speak for if I'm Suh, I'm joining the best team I can get. And if it's the AFC, let me get the Chiefs. Okay? Not let me get the Bengals. People just assume, and I don't know if it's being a little naive, he's going to look at the Lions and think, man, I got to be a part of that. And I'm not trying to disrespect what they're building, but you're not there yet. There's still some work to do before you start being that team.